Okay, well, we have a special treat for you. Before we get into our regular scheduled content, we are adding a new weekly segment called STRATO Spotlight, where we highlight the latest and greatest features on Strato. And for this week, we have a really special one. Kieren, why don't you announce it?
Thanks, Victor. So we completed our relaunch onto version 2 a little over a month ago. And wanted to monitor the system a little bit to just make sure everything was working well before we turned rewards back on. We have done that as of this Thursday. So, and not been loud about it just yet. We've been testing a little bit internally, and it seems all good to go. So Michael will show you a little bit about what I'd call season 1 of our rewards program. Season 0 was very successful, bringing in about 8 million of TVL. And we hope to see similar and greater results with the new rewards program. Over to Michael.
Hi, everyone. So I'm introducing a new rewards program. This page will be under the rewards section, under the tab. You can find it here. This activities tab shows all the different activities people are doing in order to obtain rewards on the platform. Some are one-time, such as lending from the borrowing pool here, or just like making a contributing liquidity to the swapping pools as this person has done. We're going to start with the CDP mint. Go to advanced, go to here. We have to first add collateral to the vault. I believe this account has some EFST. Going to deposit it. There you go, deposit it. We can borrow. Just gonna borrow, let's say 100 USDST, or 91 rather. There you go. Then we borrowed 91 USDST. And that would be accruing rewards as a position. Next, we're going to do deposit to lending pool. We have about, let's see, 496. Let's deposit 100 here. Great. Now we're going to do a swap, which is a one-time position. Let's do 100. Swap assets. And add to liquidity pools. When you add to liquidity pools, it is an ongoing position, so that every time, as long as you leave your funds in the pool, you'll be accruing rewards. For deposit here. Great. And now we have the regular borrow functionality. Right now, I had deposited, I believe, 2 ETH earlier. So I'm going to just borrow a little bit here. And this will be accruing rewards ongoing also. Great, borrowed. Now I just want to show you the My Rewards section of the page. We have this claimable section that you can claim at any time. There's no minimum, but this also shows your active positions, such as the lending pool position that we took, lending and borrowing, and any kind of liquidity that you contribute to the swap pools. I'm going to claim here. And it's as simple as that. Back over to you guys.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael. And we should highlight for everyone, if you look at the activities, there's a long list of activities that you can do to earn Strato points. And also, like, if you currently are engaged in one of the activities, for example, if you already have put some into a swapping pool or the lending pool, you have to take it out and put it back in to re-enable rewards for the system. Kieren, anything you want to add?
Just that this was on testnet. It is live on LiveNet. You'll see very slight differences when you do so.
Yeah, so thank you, everyone. Please start using the reward system. We'd love to give out lots of rewards to you. We, in kind of preparation to launching our full mainnet and making these rewards tradable in the future. So thank you for tuning in. Hope you use our rewards and tune in for more STRATO Spotlight segments in the future. Take care. Okay, we are live and we have a very special episode today. We are talking about the future of art and NFTs, and we're joined by special guest and very old friend, John Crain. Welcome, John Crain.
Hey, Victor. Hey, everyone.
Hey.
Good to see you guys.
Hi.
Thanks for having me.
John Crain, of course, as everyone knows, is the founder of Superrare, but do you want to give a quick intro for anyone who is not intimately familiar with all the amazing things you've done over the past couple of years?
Yeah, sure. Let's see, my crypto journey started in around 2015, going to the Consensus Hackathon, where I met at least 3 of the other folks on this call there. I was, before that, my background was kind of in art and technology. I worked in advertising. I studied architecture and structural engineering for undergrad. And I was always really interested in when crypto and blockchain were gonna, intersect more with kind of the consumer tech and just, things that were a little bit past, finance and trading. And so, when I saw NFTs, it was an instant win for digital art. So, doubled down immediately.
Yeah, I remember how you heard about the hackathon or Ethereum generally. Obviously, we met there, but what was that?
Yeah,
advertised well. You're already up.
No, so I was kind of hanging out with the New York Bitcoin crowd. I had actually met, I think, John Lilick, which I forgot, but I met him at the New York Bitcoin Center. I don't know if you guys remember that.
Yeah,
we do.
Yeah. So I was hanging around, and actually, I was super into Counterparty. So I was very much like, Ethereum's too complicated. Vitalik's full of shit. It's not going to work. And then the network launched, and I was like, okay, I was wrong. This is actually super cool. I have no problem changing. I was totally wrong. This is amazing. And I was just Googling Ethereum, blockchain, hackathon. I was trying to find, get deeper involved. I was trying to quit my day job and go full-time crypto. And so then I think I just Googled it, and it was oh shit, there's this hackathon in 2 weeks. And I applied with Charles, and then, met you guys.
Yeah, and to be clear, to let everyone know that we were blown away by you and your brother Charles's project, and we gave you, I think, your first job, both of you in Web3, right? We gave you the
yeah, for sure, exactly. Yeah, I think the Monday after, I feel like I immediately quit and started working with you guys full time on Block Apps.
Yeah, well, I think we tried to give you a job on the spot because you guys were
exactly. I remember there was a couple week consulting transition period while
I think that's true. Yeah, maybe it was we started hourly, getting to know each other a little bit, and then full time. Yeah.
So with Counterparty, you could have been on Krista Rose Tech.
Yeah, exactly. If only.
So what inspired Superrare? I know when you were working with us, you kind of became our head of product, and you were working on a bunch of those enterprise implementations. But what triggered you to kind of create Superrare, which is what, for anyone who doesn't know, one of the first NFT platforms really out there?
Yeah, it was super interesting, right? We were all kind of on the ground floor at the Consensus office, or at least me and Kieren were hanging out there, and watching the ICO boom happen was fascinating, because I was I remember me and Kieren talked a bunch about ERC20 tokens, and I found it was super interesting that it was this very small bit of is a super simple protocol, very simple code, but like the adoption created this, there's massive wealth generation. And even if there were also lots of scams, I'd say generally net positive for, humans and the economy. Like it was like incredible to see that happen. And so then I saw some of the standards conversations around ERC 721, and like I saw the CryptoPunks launch, and I was like, well, this is pretty crazy. If you think about the consumer web, it's all an image and a title tag and some metadata. So it's like it could be that like the entire consumer web turns into like NFTs, and that like I don't know exactly what the business model is going to look like, but the total addressable market's probably pretty large. So that got me into NFTs. And then on the flip side of that, I was also kind of in and around the New York art scene, like, going to the art fairs. I had friends who were, looking for gallery representation and kind of part of the, the business of art. And it's just seemed obvious. I was like, oh, there's now a way to kind of like truly own digital assets. And this is obviously going to apply to digital art. So it's kind of like the marriage of, like my interest in the tech side, but then also my interests and passions around art.
And like, what was it like to be at the forefront of like the NFT explosion? Because you guys, like, I know for a long time you were building, and it was like, like, how's it going? And, like, no one is really paying any attention. And all of a sudden, next day, everyone's talking about NFTs.
It was absolutely crazy. It was hard to it was just like completely surreal the whole time. Like it felt like a dream. Like we started in 2018. We tried to raise money. It never really worked. Like by the time we raised, we were already, cash flow positive and like making more than we were paying ourselves. So
that's the best situation to possibly be.
Yeah, it was much easier to raise then than when I was like, I have this really cool idea. So it was like, it was a grind. It was super volatile. Many times I was just like, what am I doing with my life? Then it just really started. Like, I remember the numbers were like doubling every month for a while. And like, I remember it was October 2020 was our first $1 million month in volume. And I was just like, this is wild, but 12 months ago, we were like, all right, so the volume was like $5,000 and we made a couple $100. Okay. Yeah.
And were you guys the first self-minting NFT platform? I think like we were trying to talk about that actually.
Yeah, we were the first to come. Like, I think there were maybe a couple other minting tools, but like we were the first to combine like the minting and the marketplace experience. So it was like, there weren't like great minting tools then. So we started with the minting tool, and then we're like, all right, I guess people need a place to sell this. So we'll build the marketplace too. And it's partially just out of necessity because like the tooling sucked at the time.
Yeah, it's funny because I remember, if you recall, what later became the Flow guys doing CryptoKitties. They were based in Vancouver, and I was like talking to them about running it on our blockchain and doing that kind of stuff too at the time. But I mean, you've done so much. One of the amazing things is the launch of the Rare token, and you guys seem to be one of the first projects that was really committed to sort of figuring out DAO governance in reality. Like, what led to that, and how did that go? Like, how what did you figure out there?
Yeah, I mean, early on, I was like, part of like what got me excited about Bitcoin and Ethereum is just the idea of these networks where, the users of the networks also participate in upside of the network. Like there's the, like the FAT protocol article that was, super popular, like 2016. So just like thinking about like, okay, what does monetization look like? And, can you build platforms that are, like they're more like collaborative than extractive, where it's like, if you're Meta, you're just like, I'm just going to extract as much metadata and, sell ads, which is a great business. But partially for me, it was almost like a thought experiment of like, is it possible to build a network where you don't have to sell ads? And it could be like, maybe it's a marketplace is the business model, and then kind of it's like collective ownership via the token. So yeah, I was drinking a lot of the crypto Kool-Aid at the time.
Did you do it?
Still am. Yeah, I get to be. Yeah. But
Did you do it like classic ICO style? Was there like fixed price auction? How did the rare get in there?
Yeah, we actually just did a huge airdrop. Probably one of our mistakes. Was like, yeah, so like we should have probably sold a bunch of tokens, but we actually just gave them away. And yeah, I mean, there's plenty of challenges to like, DAOs are hard to manage and run. But, it's cool to see the current administration kind of like change tack and actually seem like they're interested in like building and pushing forward. So
what do you think the biggest challenge was the biggest challenge was in running a DAO? Because I think all of us had that sort of as an ideal state with the crypto Kool-Aid, running things completely decentralized. Well, what do you think are, the challenges you faced when you did it and that are still out there, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think still one of the bigger challenges is regulatory. Like you're kind of like trying to read the tea leaves, and then rather than just making like the bet, you're like, okay, well, this is the simplest, best decision. You're like, okay, well, it's not clear what this means, so maybe we should do this. And like, how do we, not get in trouble for trying to experiment? And it's obviously, the position is friendlier, but there's still no clear like rules. It's like obviously like the Gensler era of enforcement.
The dark ages,
Gary's going to be turning up for a job somewhere soon, isn't he?
Yeah, man. Do you think of it more like
what's the advice?
Do you think of it more like it should be like a representative democracy? Like should be like passing bills in there? I think they're proposals and there's like delegation usually is the model.
Yeah.
It could also be like just like you got a couple leaders, but the stake could call no confidence vote or something, or like people like autarky too. I haven't tried it yet, but what's that? Like MetaDAO is trying to do that sort of.
Yeah.
Like,
I think it kind of depends on like specifically what you're doing. If it's something like, I mean, Bitcoin and Ethereum are obviously not DAOs, but just like, where it's like if small changes can have potentially like catastrophic impact. I think that's one thing. If it's like Superrare, where it's like there's a low level protocol and there's an application and like other than like the escrow contracts for auctions and things, like the stakes are like fairly low. I do kind of like the idea of like it's sort of like if you can empower like a team or a few individuals to kind of just keep going, and then the token holders can say like tell people to stop versus like having to approve everything. Like that's a very silly, arduous process. And I feel like it should be more like, okay, if it's like veering off in the wrong direction, you can like there's a way to kind of like raise your voice and influence it. But like, having a vote on like what color the button should be or something is very absurd.
I'm curious, like, given that you're a decentralization advocate, how do you balance like being a curated kind of platform and being open? Like how do you think about those two? Because I think one of the advantages of Superrare with the curation side in art, you keep the quality very, very high. And unlike, more marketplace type NFT platforms, which just frankly puts a ton of crap like out there. So how do you balance those two and kind of keep decentralized, do you think?
Yeah, no, it is. I mean, it's kind of challenging. It's almost a paradox. But I think, we've kind of always taken the like minimal decentralization. So it's like you have it where it's useful, and then like one example is like we were like talking about like token models early on. It was like maybe we'll have token holders vote on artists, and I was just like, that sounds like the most dramatic, terrible thing I could ever imagine. It's like people voting like your art's terrible. Like you're like, oh my word.
I mean, in the pump.fun streamer heyday, I think that it could have really worked during that period of time.
Exactly. Yeah. Maybe we
Like the
could have people
reality TV.
stream. Yeah. It's like live voting. Like, is the art good or bad?
Watch this artist threaten to commit suicide.
I did
Oh, my word.
consult on a dating project once where you basically had to be voted in based on your looks, which just seems horrible. Like it's very, very evil, Like,
But those breaking out
for
of 10 pages,
sadness.
remember those?
yes, or hot or not, or all of those.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just brutal. But especially in places, the art industry can be quite vicious.
Yeah, it's challenging, and art, like good art is subjective. So that it's like, I feel like like the on-chain auctions, escrow on-chain, that makes a lot of sense. Like on-chain voting for like which artists are good. That's kind of like let people who are like making decisions like do their thing, and then if it starts to be like if things get out of hand, maybe like the token holders can like raise awareness. But that was like and like part of it too. I mean, actually early on we were like thought we would be more of an open platform, and then as things progressed there were more tools. Like we were just trying, it was like we were building things, trying to add value, and there's a ton of open tooling. So like early on we kind of thought we might have like Superrare as like the ultra curated view into the market, and then maybe you have like another kind of like open platform that's anyone could use. But
I'm curious, like what was the it's a two-sided market with market artists and art buyers. Like what do you think, like did you have to get the artists first and convince them, and how did you do that, or did you have to get the art buyers?
Yeah, we you kind of had to get both first. So I mean, we started like just out of like it really started as just me kind of like experimenting and building. And so we were like, started with the minting tools. I was going around like demoing, talking to people, and I guess we at first kind of piqued interest of the artists. Like I was, like we were like talking about how it would work, and then when we first launched though, we kind of had so there's Jason Bailey, who was kind of like an early digital art advocate. He big writer. He runs a company called Club NFT that does like NFT art backups.
Yeah.
And he hit us up and was like, hey guys, like we'd been talking to him, and he was like, I know you're getting close with your product. Like I want to buy this art on Monday. Can I do it on Superrare? And I like looked at Charlie and I was like, dude, Jason wants to, buy something on mainnet on Monday. Like, what can we play now? That was it. Like we had like 36 hours, and Charlie was like, yeah, probably. And so then we basically stayed up for 36 hours fixing bugs. And
I'm getting flashbacks to when Microsoft said we want to launch blockchain as a service with you at DEF CON 1, and we were like,
exactly.
Oh my God, like that's like
there are many parallels.
Yeah, exactly.
Nothing like a good deadline to get.
Yes, exactly. Especially with a big, major partner that can make or break you, right? So
yeah,
just don't have live demos on the end of all of that as well.
Yeah, exactly. That's when it gets real risky. We actually, so when we did it, there was a funny bug with the React stuff. So we were like live, like helping. We were like live streaming, or not live streaming, but like screen sharing the transaction with this artist Robbie Barat and Jason. And we're like literally pushing fixes. It was like, oh, we didn't expect that to happen. Like, okay, 1 second. Like, all right, it's deployed. Just reload the page.
Lots of cache clearing in
Exactly.
I remember about that. I'm curious what you see as the future of just generally like art and NFTs.
Can I jump in on this?
Yeah, please.
Take a take on it. So in DeFi, we're starting to see, like, as the administration has cleared the way to some extent, it seems like, there was a pent up demand for something like a TradFi DeFi merger. It's not all the way there yet, but it's, getting to just be Fi. Like I see the path to that happening. Do you think like it's NFTs really stay sort of like a distinct asset class forever? I know, maybe you could talk about your gallery. I know you started to do a lot of like physical sales, et cetera. Like, does it kind of, do they merge? Do they not? Do they?
Yeah, that does. Like trad art become NFT art, digital art, or like?
Yeah, I like the NFT stuff. I do think kind of just like eventually fades into the background. Like the real 0 to 1 is cryptographically secure provenance. So you could use that for physical art. You could use it for digital. I think it was like more of a breakthrough with digital because you can kind of argue the token is the art. You now have this more liquid asset. So for art specifically, yeah, it's kind of just becoming part of the market. And I think you'll see NFTs, used with digital art, obviously, but also with physical art. Like no one's really, if you like the lack of good data on provenance in the art market and like collectibles in general is like kind of amazing. Like it's still like, oh, there's a sticker on the back that this, says it was from this gallery. Probably it was. You're like, probably it was. Like nobody knows. And so, and also I think, like a lot of people are like really trying to tie the physical asset to the digital asset, which I think is a waste of time personally. It's like, if you have the physical asset and you also have custody of the certificate of authenticity, like that's kind of good enough. You don't really need some complicated tech solution there. And it's hard to imagine a world in which, like collectors and like customers, like you just want, like I personally have like a higher perceived value for physical art that also has an NFT with it.
Yeah.
And I think in general that trend continues. So I think digital art will kind of just become a bigger part of the contemporary art market. And then eventually we'll see NFTs used as certificates of authenticity, for all, high value objects.
Yeah, I mean, one of the big things I didn't realize is that a friend of mine is an artist, and she often gets a request like for the value that was paid for it because someone wants to insure it, right? And like there's this whole downstream kind of economy.
Yeah, insurance, appraisal, like lending, like you need much better. And so it's like, Kieren, you and I have talked about the lending stuff a little bit. It's like, I think the lending market for these types of assets is small just because there's not good information. You could probably really grow that pie quite a bit if you do have easier access to provenance information.
Let me add a little on that front. So I felt, having been more of an NFT style RWA marketplace for a while and gone more DeFi, I thought that people wanted to tokenize to sell things at first. And this is true. But I think it is better that they tokenize to unlock liquidity. In selling could be one way, but people kind of want to hold on to stuff. Like I don't want to sell my ETH. I don't want to sell my, et cetera.
Yeah.
And
selling
I think
stuff's painful.
You would know better than us. At the very high end of the market, if you get like a wealth manager, they might extend some credit against your Picasso, right? Or
sure.
What have you. But for everybody else, and you probably have to have a lot of separate money for that too. You can't really, like, I don't know if people fire sell their art, but it tends to sit there. And I used to think that was bad, but maybe it should sit there, but the credit markets actually just make it liquid, as we've discussed before, which I think would be super cool. Like, I'm surprised, or we're getting into that world, but we're not.
Yeah, I think we're seeing it. I feel like there's the green shoots of like, okay, here's what's possible. It totally makes sense. I think just like NFTs almost just is like, they're a great, like people in crypto love talking about identity and stuff. And like, to me, it's like NFTs are like a beautiful, very simple digital identity for whatever. You can pack anything you want in that metadata. It's just like pack it full of stuff. It's very simple. They're unique. They're pointers to one specific thing.
Yeah, I mean, I love the way you talk about, NFTs as certificates of authenticity, because I didn't realize this. We looked into like the physical art market for a while, and like every auction at Sotheby's, when they have a big piece, like they have to research it effectively from scratch, right? Like they have to build that entire chain of provenance with every piece that they do, which is an insane amount of work every single time.
Yeah, it's a very high friction. Like the transactions are very, very high friction, which is good, you know, like depending on where your position is in the market. Like obviously Sotheby's loves being the, you know, the keeper of all secrets and information. But I think that's clearly going to be disintermediated with technology.
John, any
I
new
have a little
assets,
question.
or maybe are you guys, you know, just to declare war on the auction houses, you know, other high-end physical goods? What?
Yeah, I mean, we're focusing like our expansion, like, you know, we launched the gallery earlier this year, offline gallery. It's on the Bowery, right next to New Museum. And, you know, we're showing physical, digital art, you know, installations, you know, projections, all sorts of different things. And yeah, I think like, you know, our view, like if you look at the models, like they're all like the galleries are not doing great, you know, business wise, the auction houses are hurting. I think everyone's trying to find a more sustainable model. And
Stuff is so illiquid, right? I don't mean to interrupt, right? It's just, I
Yeah.
think the norm is stuff sitting 5 years, 10 years, with, you know, and it's feast or famine. Like if we print a bunch of money, probably you get a bunch of transactions. And then
yeah,
you just wait.
yeah, like 2021, people were just, you know, buying Picassos on their phones on like online. And
crazy apes, right? So
they all everything, you know, like
Every
Ether
time.
rocks. I remember when Ether rocks were like the prices exploding, and I was like, this is truly amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think like the models have to change, and you know, just as like if you think what the internet's done as far as like shopping, right? It's like you can price compare easily on your phone in any stores, right? There's no kind of like price arbitrage. You're going to look up the price of something, you can scan something, figure, you know, like ask ChatGPT, what is this? How much should it cost? And so I think like the art world has been like an insider's game of who knows who, and like, what's the real price, like the marketed price versus like what was actually paid. And I think that's gonna it's kind of slowly like unwinding, and we'll end up with a market structure where pricing is just much more transparent. You can see things on chain, and I mean, I think that's, you know, like that's kind of like part of the opportunity is, you know, as the market becomes more efficient, we'll have the best tools to service the new structure.
So it sounds like even the big guys want more liquidity, but they're not willing to like let go of their proprietary information advantage, I guess.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah, exactly. And that's a kind of also the paradox. It's like you'll have more liquidity if it's better access to information, but like, you know, it's the classic. What's the
innovator's dilemma? The
innovator's dilemma? Exactly. I was like,
Yeah.
it's on the tip of my tongue. But yeah, classic innovator's dilemma.
Gotcha.
Well, I think some of the auction houses are even trying to offer loans to try and lock people up even longer, right? To the places.
Yeah, they have. I mean, like they're all Christie's and Sotheby's. Like a lot of the big or most of the auction houses are private, so I don't know how big their businesses are, but they do have. Yeah, there's like, you know, people will like inherit art, and it's like they don't really care necessarily, and their advisor was like, "Don't sell that. You should just take out a loan." And so they do have.
But that seems like a classic conflict of interest, to your point, right? Like, oh, we'll tell you how much it's worth and we'll loan you based on that.
Yeah, it's very one-sided, and you can't really shop it around. It's like ultra specialized information.
Jim, did you want to ask a question? You look like you came off mute.
Well, it's a little bit of a different topic, but I'll throw it in right now anyway. What has been the effect, for good or bad, of AI in art on what you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, as far as the startup goes, it's been great. We're like, you know, we got a little robot in our Slack you can talk to that does things for you. As far as the art market goes, I think it's also been kind of great. Like in my mind, this is just like, you know, it's a new tool that unlocks creativity. You know, like you can kind of like do different creative things. You're
encouraging it then.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We have like tons of artists use AI. I mean, there's also tons of artists we work with who hate it and think it's the end of all creativity. But I think just like if you look history, I think what it really enables is like somebody to do more complex things. It's like where you can like all the grunt work you don't have to do. So now maybe it's instead of making one still image, you're going to do insane world building where it's like you can go in, you can the art's just more interactive. And actually, the first art we ever sold on Superrare was kind of like generated via like GAN, so like adversarial networks, like voting on outcomes. So I think it's inevitable. It's going to happen. It's kind of like digital cameras were the end of photography, and they obviously were not.
Well, so. do you think like going back to the metadata and certificates of authority, that proving some part was based, done by a human will be valued into art kind of, or any kind of creation going forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think, just like if it's like, it's super amazing to see like the rate at which content's being created and like, people, it's like you can watch a video of like, that person didn't actually say that, but it looks like they did. I think that's where, like, nobody ever answers a random phone number. If someone's calling you and it's not in your phone, you're like, I would literally never answer this. Like, I don't know who does that. You'd have to be like pretty insane. And so it's sort of like you've kind of certified the numbers, and I think it'll end up being the same with like content and like art and stuff, where it's like, if it isn't, signed somehow cryptographically, you'll probably just assume it's fake. Yeah. Because there's no real way to know.
Have you seen much interest on the Bitcoin side in terms of ordinals and inscriptions and stamps and runes? Like how is that looking?
Yeah, we've done a couple projects on runes with artists, and it's super interesting. I think there's going to be art on many blockchains. Obviously, Bitcoin and Ethereum being the most secure probably have the highest likelihood of it lasting. But it's actually, people really like ordinals. It's funny, one of the sort of paradoxes or like the funny things we ran into is like early on we would talk to like investors and they're like, you need to get rid of the wallet, it's too complicated. But actually it kind of ends up being this like, you got to know all the right terms. It's almost like you get the secret incantation, you get inducted into the club and how it works. And so like, I think people really like that ordinals are a little more complex and like harder to understand than NFTs on Ethereum, which is just, that's a funny anecdote, but they're quite popular. I think they'll be around for a while. And
I mean, another difference you have there, right, is that they're doing the data carrying on chain as well versus an external URL, which is another interesting difference. Yeah,
totally.
I'm curious about the decision to, you mentioned starting the gallery, and like everyone's talking about RWAs and kind of bringing real world stuff into the blockchain, but you're kind of doing the opposite. Like, what was the decision to start a physical gallery? And, why did you decide that was a logical next step for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, just, it's kind of part of like how, like the market works. So like, people like getting together, and like a lot of the art, it's like, you can look at it on your phone, but if you see it, on the huge projector, there's like, a 10 by 10 CRT, like TV wall, it really looks different. So I think, part of it is like, it's community building, it's a space people can show up. And then part of it's like, like the art really does just look different. So I think, as far as like NFTs still, people are like, okay, these are just nonsense JPEGs. They're, like it's Ether Rocks 2.0 or whatever. Like, and so like, it's kind of like telling the story to everyone else. Cause at the end of the day, it's still like, it's a demand constrained market, and we're trying to grow the collector base.
Beyond art, what do you see as like the next area? Like, what's the next areas that are kind of going to need these kind of Provenance or these kind of certificates of authority? I mean, I can think of a million, but I'm just curious from your point of view, where do you see the next elements kind of getting into it first?
Yeah, I mean, I think in general, it's like, like luxury assets, right? Like NFTs are still more expensive to create than like not having one. Like you just print one out and the ID lives in your database.
Yeah.
And and I think, but it's going to be like the customers are going to have to demand it, because like a lot of like the brokers and folks, like they do like their kind of like information advantage, and so they don't really want this to exist. But I think it just makes so much sense. It's just hard to imagine that it doesn't happen. So I mean, we're like, there's people taking wine very seriously, issuing NFTs, and like building secondary markets. I think part of it's like an asset that's kind of fun to speculate on, but also like there's a high likelihood you might have somebody send you the NFT. It's like kind of like wine, watches,
Handbags, I think, are a big one. Like
handbags, exactly, yeah.
Yeah, Hermes.
One of the really popular ones right now is trading cards. So they're like, what people like is like,
Courtyard is still going, right? I think
they're doing great. Yeah, it's kind of like you have the speculative aspect, but also like if you're a serious collector, you can get real things.
Okay, last question for you, because unless anyone else has one, but
no, we
just
promised.
got a quick.
Before
One more.
exactly. What are you most excited about in any aspect of the blockchain space right now?
Most excited. I mean, it's obviously like we've all been working on this for like a super long time, but I do think like if you look at even just like BlackRock's putting treasuries on chain with different partners, like Art's moving on chain, like everything literally is going to become is moving on chain. Like I think it's like that's actually finally, it used to just be like a mantra people would say to like help themselves feel important, but like I think we're finally getting there. We're like, holy fuck, like everything is moving on chain, like that's actually happening. So it's like real world assets, digital assets. I think just like the liquidity is increasing. It's I think it's like generally net positive for everyone, and it's it feels actually like it's finally happening. So
yeah, it's taken way longer, 10 years, but we're still here and we're still doing it.
We can make like a thumbnail like the Ron Paul that's happening.
Exactly.
We need the mission accomplished banner,
Oh my goodness, no.
Yeah, exactly. Well, John, thank you for your time, and as always, we're really glad that you're doing so well. And where can people find you and learn more about all the stuff you're doing?
Yeah, on X at Superrare John, at Superrare. We're you should also there's currently a show at the gallery that's wrapping up, but we have a new there's an X copy show December 10th. So if anyone's in town, swing
awesome.
You said the name of the gallery one more time. I missed it.
Offline by Superrare.
Offline by Superrare.
Well, awesome. Thank you for joining us, and take care, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.